I wanted to come back up and talk a little bit more about this visibility and control problem that we have, thanks to the access trust gap sort of created by the SaaS sprawl that we have. So it's important to understand that we're sort of in the middle of two major shifts that have significantly changed the way that we have worked, right? I mean, I remember when I started my career, I'm 40, so this was in '07. And back then, every aspect of my experience from an IT perspective was fully controlled. I would go to an office, to an assigned cubicle with the device that was physically given to me. And I was given a VPN RSA thing, and I couldn't do anything that wasn't fully sanctioned by the IT and security team. And we were able to, as a collective community, like security and IT practitioners, were able to achieve their objectives because users, they didn't have free will, right? So the world that we're in now, we have to deal with the fact that users have a degree of free will. They have the opportunity to choose the apps that they want to install. They have an opportunity to work primarily from wherever they want. They don't have to use the VPN every time to be able to do their work. And a lot of as an entrepreneur, one of the things that I was taught was, oh, get users and bring up new enterprise apps via grassroots. Like, this is a known way to get applications installed throughout an enterprise, is start from the bottom up. That would have never been possible in the 90s and the early 2000s. And so we need to change the way that we think about solving these compliance problems in the access trust gap by taking a page out of how every other industry does it, by bringing this problem to the end users, educating them, giving them information, and more importantly, giving IT security the visibility they need to enumerate this problem. So the truth is that this problem has gotten really, really bad. I think we've sort of fooled ourselves that maybe we're getting this a little bit more under control lately with the introduction of tools like Okta and other SSO providers. But we've just sort of created this bubble that we live in, and we've sort of decided, yeah, we know there's a little bit of that nonsense out there, but it can't be that much, right? Well, the truth is that this is exploding. And if you look all the way on the right, this sort of unmanaged piece of it, a lot of AI tools in there, because these things are popping up every day. And not only are they apps that we don't really have visibility into that they're being used, but they are often encountering and intersecting with some of the most important and secret information in our companies. It's like a nightmare. So this is a slide that's familiar, but we're going to talk a little bit about how all these things come together, sort of help, again, enumerate this gap. I'm going to talk about the AI problem, which is actually really unique. The thing that's really tricky about AI is that it's more than just web apps. They're really SaaS services that have a physical or local app component to them, which makes them especially hard to find, especially if the way that you're typically relying on finding these things is sort of centrally like scanning emails and OAuth tokens. If you don't have more visibility than that, you're going to miss this stuff. And then we're going to bring Ethan up here to talk about Trellica, which is this incredible tool that allows us to enumerate all the shadow IT that's out there, get it under management, and then gives us some really cool superpowers so that not only can we learn that it exists, bless it as an official app in the company, but we can start doing some really exciting things about managing access to that app based on the properties and the lifecycle events associated with those users. And we will show how we bring that all together in what we call the 1Password app launcher, this one unified place where you just click on an app, and regardless of the implementation detail of how you sign in, we get you in safely and securely every time. So with that, I'm going to do a quick demonstration of the AI discovery capabilities of device trust. And then we're going to swing over and we're going to show you a little bit of 1Password access governance, previously known as Trellica by 1Password. So right now, I'm in device trust again. And I'm looking at a series of apps that we've discovered utilizing the 1Password device trust agent. I've already pre-filtered this list by AI and machine learning applications, so you give a sense of all the goodies that I found here. And we could see the number of people in this smaller organization who are using these tools. And we could decide whether to accept or deny these tools and learn a little bit more about them. So if I click into one, let's click into ChatGPT, for instance, I get a nice summarization of what this program is. We all kind of know what ChatGPT is, and then give us all the information we need to do to understand why do we think that people are using this. So there's two mechanisms that we have today through the agent that we can use to identify usage of these applications. The first is browser visits. So the agent is actually capable of looking at Firefox, Safari, all the variants of Chrome, and using a really privacy-forward way, scanning the history file to know whether or not specific patterned URLs are being used. This is all done locally, so we never actually see an end user's full browser history. We only see the specific and curated URLs we're looking for that are directly associated with these services. And if you're an end user and you're maybe worried about this, we have a whole privacy center for you to look at. It tells you who can access the data, what checks do we have enabled, that's what I showed you earlier, and more importantly, what types of apps are we looking for in terms of looking at usage both on the browser and then locally native. This is available to every single employee that uses 1Password device trust, and they can get a good understanding of what their administrator can see. We do this not because this is something that we expect companies to use when they have it rolled out via company-owned devices, but we also want to make this a plausible agent that people can install on BYOD, particularly laptops.
Is your discovery only browser history, or do you also have like email integrations and those sort of discovery methods?
So we'll show you a little bit more. We actually have some exciting stuff on the Trellica side that kind of marries all this data together that shows it on both OAuth secrets and grants, and also some of the capabilities we can get through an extension in terms of understanding usage there. Now, what's valuable about that is that we can also get usernames in that case. So if we're actually looking at authentications, we can know what a user is. If we're looking at browser history, we sort of have to take that leap of faith that if they're using that particular service, they're using it for a work purpose.
But no email?
We do not do email scanning as of this time.
All right.
Yeah. All right, so I talked about browser really quickly. Let's look at desktop apps. So one of the things that's really tricky about these AI tools is that they kind of get their feelers into everything, right? It's not just the website. It's not even just the native, like there's a Mac OS app called ChatGPT.app. How many people here knew that ChatGPT had a Chrome extension just for search? I didn't know that existed. How many folks knew that they had a direct VS Code extension? I didn't know that that was a thing. And so we are able to crawl all of these different areas. So every type of browser extension, IDE plugins, native apps, and we're not just talking about Mac OS, we're talking about Windows, we're talking about Linux, and we're talking about all the different plugin systems that appear in those things. So if you're looking at Debian packages, RPM packages, these are all things that we can bring to bear in one unified view that's associated with this SaaS application, ChatGPT. And this gives us great visibility into that issue. But what if I want to do something about this, right? Okay, now I know that this is being used. I can either accept it or I can deny it. Well, this is where checks become super, super powerful. So if I go to checks really quickly, I'll just search really fast for ChatGPT. Oops, I spelled it correctly. And you can see that we're offering all these different flavors of checks that are associated with the service. And the key to this is that it's meant to be nuanced. There are going to be some people out there that simply do not want people to use ChatGPT at all. We just don't want you to use it. This isn't a sanctioned application. It's verboten. But what about the nuance? And this is where we think this sort of middle ground is really important. If you sign up for ChatGPT as your company and you get an organizational account, you now have the ability to get a little bit of governance of what people are actually using that service for. You get some audit log history, you could kind of set some rules of the road, you can limit some of the functionality. But what good is that if your users aren't even using that org? So we have a specific check here that ensures that when people are linking ChatGPT to their native web app or to the Mac app, they're using the correct workspace that you said is the one that they should use for work. And if they don't, we won't let them use ChatGPT at all. We'll block them on the website, and we won't let them sign in to your most sensitive and secure applications. We'll use that stick to prevent them from doing this until they understand this policy, fix the issue, and then they form in compliance. So this is the power of device trust. It not only allows us to make sure devices are secure and compliant, but as I mentioned earlier, you're allowed to use this to convey very nuanced policy and go as deep as, sure, ChatGPT is fine, but we really need you to use the corporate sanctioned account. And if you're not doing that, we're not going to let you use it. And you have 3, 4, 5 days to comply before you do so. This invites a back and forth conversation, and people feel a little bit more comfortable using these things, and you end up being in a place where you effectively have a little bit more control over this story. And on the other side, you can ban all the ones that you really don't want them to use. So if you don't want them using DeepSeek, block DeepSeek, and start to direct them towards the approved and thought through tools that you want. Yeah, go ahead.
How are you seeing what workspace they're in? Is it?
I sigh because the amount of labor it took to do this. So we have a crack checks team at 1Password. Their entire job is to look at some of the most popular applications, and we reverse engineer how they function. So for ChatGPT.app, for example, which is a Mac OS app, ChatGPT stores the logged in accounts in a file called a plist. Mm-hmm. That plist is in a known location. Our agent has raw capability to read that plist, and then we can basically build an interface where we just ask you for your account ID, and then we can make that happen. So this, for every AI capability we want to support with that nuance, we have to extend the agent's capabilities or build our own check to be able to make that happen. You, of course, can also do this, but it's really hard, and it's often better if we collaborate, and that's part of your service when you sign up. If there's things that we don't have in there for you, part of what we do is we work with you to make sure there's check coverage where you need it.
So yes, it's in the plist, but how do you, because I could log into my personal or so both of mine are in my plist file, I assume. Mm-hmm. I actually never looked. How do you know if I switch to my personal?
Oh, great question. Great question. So we do know that. And the way that we do that is in that same plist, there's a special indicator to show which organization is actually physically selected. And so we read that plist and we monitor it for changes. Every time it makes a change, we're able to detect that, oh, this is no longer set as the primary one. What's nice is, so you can do it both ways. You could say, you know what? I don't even want them to have the personal one on there, period. Or you could be like, no, it's okay if they have it, but when they're accessing, when it's for work purposes, it really should have that one be the active one that's selected. So we go to that depth, and it's not easy, but it's something that we think is important, because if you take a blunt instrument to this problem, all you end up doing is blocking and banning everything. And as a security practitioner myself, the one thing that I hate is this idea that security people are the people of no. We're not. We want to be enablers, and the tools that we inherit often make us feel like we're the people of no. But if we build more nuanced tools that get that balance right, we can be the people of yes and then kind of inject a little bit of that nuance and get visibility into how well that adherence is, and then convey that instead of one long document, convey it in real time to people who are actively messing it up. And that means if I don't have ChatGPT on my computer at all, as a user, I don't see a thing. The second I get it on there and I only have a personal account, we're going to be knocking on the door and we're going to be asking you to fix up some things for us, and we're going to tell you why. So that's our perspective of how to use device trust to get good AI discovery and to bring the policy to the end user to make them feel like they understand what's going on and direct them to the paths that we want them to take so that they can use AI safely and efficiently within their organization. All right. I am going to stop there because I could keep talking about this for hours, but you guys haven't seen Trellica yet. And Trellica is probably one of my favorite parts of 1Password. It is everything that we are talking about when it comes to us taking apps that can't traditionally be fully managed by a traditional IDP and getting management around them and discovery, and then plugging that in to the 1Password authentication experience. So with that, we're going to bring Ethan up, and he's going to go through it.
Sweet. All right. Hi all, my name is Ethan Stoller. I am one of our senior demo engineers at 1Password, and I will also be taking you through a live demo here. Like Jason was saying, I've been using 1Password for 12 years. I got very excited by Trellica and actually starting to get into use it, so very excited to show you all what we've got today. So logging in here, again, Trellica is going to be our newest addition to the extended access management suite of products. So this is going to help you control and manage any app governance and all of your SaaS management. So really bringing everything into one single pane of glass for you to be able to see how people are interacting, as well as working with what we discover in the access trust gap for any unmanaged applications as well. So really, Trellica works with three key pieces here. First, we are integral with connecting to your identity provider to pull in that initial source of truth for people and applications that you're already aware of and managing. We also integrate with different spend data, so pulling in from financial systems, cross-referencing that for any individual expenses for applications that you might not be aware of or procured outside of a formal process. And then finally, we do have the Trellica browser extension as well to cover any of the remaining gaps for what people are actually using in their day-to-day, signing in using a business email address. So here in the dashboard, as an admin, we're going to see everything that we're aware of. So those managed applications, all the people we know about, approximately how much we're spending, and other things like upcoming contract renewals or workflow runs. But here we can also see any newly discovered applications. So again, this is pulling in through the browser extension if someone signs in with that business email. This is also pulling in and identifying any sign-ins using OAuth. So when you connect to Google or Microsoft, they're using that sign in with Google Microsoft button. Again, using a business email address, we'll collect that in here and surface that for you. But we can automate all this as well. So having those integrations.
Excuse me, sorry. So you're detecting this based on what you consider a business email address or like the registered domain of the company?
Correct. So either the business email address using the browser extension, or of course, if you've connected your organization's Google Entra accounts, will pull directly in from there.
Okay.
Yep.
Another question. Earlier, this was tied to an IGA process. I know there's versions of this type of approach that use like RPA or something to provision or deprovision or put people in specific app roles. Is that a part of this? I see workflows.
Yeah, we'll get into workflows in just a second, but that actually leads me into applications. So again, starting out with our managed applications, at least, these are the things that we know about, that we do want to provision folks into and control those permissions. If we go into Postman here as an example, this is where we can start setting up the baseline for those workflows. So in here, Postman is an application that I want everyone to be able to have access to. So I'm going to set up an access level that gives everyone that immediate birthright access as soon as they join the company. They don't need any type of approval. We could apply an approval, but since we know we want to give this to everyone, we're just going to leave that as is. Again, with over 350 plus integrations that we have, depends on the application itself. If they have API endpoints that support that provisioning aspect, Trellica can handle that as well. So in this case here, we are going to provision directly to Postman for any new users that get invited or get added to the org.
You said 350 integrations. Is there like a universal integration or something that can be done if we have a one-off, or customized if we have a one-off, or are we limited to the integrations out of the box?
Yeah, so really the end application, the target application depends if we have an API that we can utilize. For those that we don't, you can configure manual tasks as well. So this would come in again, we didn't have an API, any type of integration, it wasn't hooked up to the identity provider. We could just create a manual task and say to the IT admin, the app owner that's assigned to this app, hey, this new user signed up, here's a task, go provision them with this set of access that we're defining in here.
Nice. Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
And again, with integrations too, if you have something like Freshservice, Zendesk, Asana, we can sync all of these tasks over to those systems as well. They're mark completed over there. They get mark completed in Trellica. So going into those workflows, and specifically talking about app governance, this is where we start looking into centralizing onboarding and offboarding workflows as well. So taking a look at our onboarding workflow, it's going to do a couple simple tasks here, just getting a user set up. So we're going to create a manual task to actually create an email for them. This is just in our demo account. We're going to create an Okta user, Google Workspace user, and then we're going to send that new person all the information that they need to be able to sign into those accounts and get started. We're also going to go through and generate an access plan. So those access levels that I set up for Postman, saying everyone gets this for birthright. Maybe I also have Workday. If you're assigned to the HR department, you get birthright access for like an admin level permission. This is going to collect all of those settings that you've applied for that specific user and the team they're joining and start to generate those requests in the background. We also have interactivity built in. So between Slack and Teams, we could send their line manager a message and say, hey, we have determined that this new hire needs access to these 10 applications. Does this all look right? Once they approve that, we'll run the access plan, send another email saying they've been set up and they've been onboarded. Same thing for offboarding here too, just as another example. This is a little bit more complex because they've actively been working in our systems. They've been making changes. They've been working in Asana, different applications. We actually want to go through automatically to clear and revoke all sessions. Maybe we want to lock devices that have been integrated with our MDM. Maybe we also need to go through and reassign their Asana task to the line manager. Again, this can all be clearly defined in a workflow that's easy to manage by anyone who comes in here, with us handling the API requests in the background. So no need to go to multiple Google Workspace pages to do all these actions. No need to go into Asana. Everything can be clearly defined and outlined here in our workflows. So putting on more of my end user hat on here, this is where we start looking at App Launcher as well. So let's say I'm starting my day out here, and again, I need to get into Postman to start doing my work. Now I could come in here and just search for Postman. This is going to bring up any applications that Trellica knows that I have access to. Again, either via the integration or just manually setting those up in Trellica. It'll also pull in any items that we have saved in 1Password directly. So this is where we have everything living within this search bar for these top applications, these most recent applications. You can also see we have device trust here in the top right, but I'm actually going to run into that when I go to sign in here with one click into Postman. So I'll go through verify my device real quick. I'm good to go. I do have an unencrypted SSH key. I'm a guilty one here, but I'm actually not going to fix that right now. And we'll just go to finish signing in. And now I'm into Postman and can start my day out here. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to walk through, kind of how we bring all three products together into that one central space and how we can bring all of the SaaS applications and governance for each of those into one single pane of glass here in Trellica, making that easy to manage and report on and get access to.
One additional question. If I've got an SSO portal, right, my apps dashboard off my IDP for everything that's federated, then I've got a second one for Trellica, or is there any, do you have any like combined?
This is that combined. So again, the IDP is going to be for things that are just federated.
Yep.
But maybe you have applications that aren't federated with SSO. This is where, again, you can mark those as managed. You can define a sign-in URL, and then it's added into that same app launcher as well. So maybe it is something that's stored as a username and password in people's 1Password accounts. Maybe it is an OAuth application that you are aware of and managing. Again, Trellica is aware of all of that. You can update the status here, and it would be available in
Your
the app
customers
launcher.
would take like their Entra app launcher and just move those apps into this for one combined use.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And does it, so if I had something on here, Box, for example, that we log in through Okta, through SAML, does it send them through Okta if I click it here?
So just like we saw here, signing into Postman, this is an application managed through Okta. So I am going through Okta
You
to
are
finish signing
yeah,
in.
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
This is Marion. During that onboarding, is there any safeguards in there to check for like stale entitlements, suspect SaaS apps?
You can go through and build in any type of check in here if you need to wait for a different action. So we could go through and just do specific, we need to wait a certain amount of time. Maybe we also add in a task for a specific IT admin to go through and complete something before the workflow continues. So you are able to build in pauses and breaks in here for what needs to be extra controlled.
Thank you.
Can you then go ahead and do you have a workflow or build something, or how would you think about on the opposite side of the employees leaving or changing roles and needing to terminate all access to apps?
Yeah. So again, since Trellica is aware of everything that they have access to, this is one step that we have at the end of our offboarding workflow is to offboard the person from all apps. So again, that's going to follow the policies that we had set for each specific app, whether that is deprovisioning them from Okta, removing them from a group, creating a manual task to take them out, doing the exact opposite of that since it's all noted with those access levels. And you can see over here too, maybe we do want to change the offboarding policy to specifically do a task instead of automatic deprovisioning. So this is fully customizable for anyone's workflow needs.
Gotcha.
I guess last thing to point out here too, so we've been talking about access levels, things just appearing. We do also have the end user's view of Trellica. This is the app catalog. So they can come in here as, again, that single source of truth for them to see all the approved company applications. And again, seeing specific information about each of those, Trellica will pull in a pre-populated profile, giving them a quick description, type of category for the application, specific product information as well, and who they can go to within their own organization for more support on this. Of course, in addition to actually requesting access. So this is what they would see if they were to sign into Trellica. Something like Slack too, we can also bring up the app catalog directly in the Trellica application as well. So if people are already working in something like Slack, they don't necessarily have to leave. We can still kick off the onboarding and provisioning workflows all within Slack.
Let's go over everything that we saw today. As you can see, with 1Password, we're trying to go far beyond our original remit of just simply securing credentials. We're trying to enumerate what we call the access trust gap. And we're trying to give you common sense solutions to bring those unmanaged apps, devices, and identities into the light, and then give you an opportunity to get them under management, and then eventually get them under governance. Everything that we have announced this year and we will be announcing the end of this year and in early 2026 is all going to be in service of this mission, secure every sign into every app from every device. And we really want to do this as holistically as possible. So we're going to be chipping away at the problem little by little with every announcement that we made. So you may have looked at App Launcher that we just showed you and thought, man, is that something I want to replace I already have a thing like that. Well, the truth is the thing that you have already is likely just a limited slice of the total view of everything that that user can do. And our vision is for that screen to represent what your end user wants to do that day, and to take all the implementation details of how they get access and make them completely invisible to that end user. So if I click on one of those boxes and it's not behind Okta, it doesn't matter. The 1Password autofill will automatically put in their username, their password, their TOTP, and then boom, they're in. And if they need to fix something in device trust, they'll be prompted. And if it is Okta, they'll go through the exact same experience. This is incredibly valuable because it allows us to create what I call experiential uniformity. Once you have that, we can go, collectively, we can go behind the curtain and start taking some of the most sensitive and unprotected credentials and start upgrading them. We can turn a username and password to a passkey. We can go from that passkey to a fully federated SAML-based app. And the end user doesn't even have to think about it. They'll just click on the app the same way. And throughout that entire journey, the security and IT team will know that they'll get all the guarantees that they want around that device being secure, that identity is known, and that they're accessing an app that's known and sanctioned within the organization. So that's our vision when it comes to 1Password extended access management. It's going to take us a while to fix the whole thing. But as you can see, we're well on our way to doing so, and appreciate your time today. With that, I will leave the floor open for any questions at all about things that we talked about or things that we didn't cover that you'd like to ask that are related to 1Password. Happy to talk about anything.
So with the CI/CD pipeline, you know how we have the shift left type of idea or shift everywhere. Is there anything as far as expanding deeper into that with a developer, deeper into that password so it's more to the left?
Yeah, so there's some trends that we're starting to notice that we're actually very encouraged by. So one of the trends that you're going to start to hear about, I think, next year, but I go to a lot of developer conference and there's like a little bit of a drumbeat about this, is that they're starting to reject the concept of centralized CI/CD. The reason for that is this idea that we want to take all of our most sensitive secrets and just throw them into the cloud because it's too hard for us to run CI locally is starting to be rejected. The reason for this is computers that were used in development are starting to get really great. Like they can actually run the test suites often faster than the CI/CD service that we're paying thousands of dollars a month for. So for those folks, we want to empower them to be able to source those secrets that they need to power that pipeline directly from 1Password locally. You'll see this with our integration. We just had an integration with the Ruby on Rails framework on their deployment thing called Kamal, where you can actually do a local CD run and actually deploy it to production using the SSH key capability within 1Password, and then sign an attestation that you did all these things and then upload that to like a GitHub source control to say that you did it. So that's one area where we're trying to help. The second area that we're trying to help is encouraging the rotation of all these secrets, making those easier by directly embedding ourselves into the development workflow. I can't tell you the amount of folks that if they get those ENVs compromised, they're sort of flat-footed in their ability to actually go and rotate all those things. So we're going to be working on a number of ways to make that process easier, to create the connections necessary to understand all the secrets that are associated with different production pipelines and things like that, to help get that scope around that problem and get accountability and auditability of how frequently those credentials have been reset. So those are some of the things that we're working on or have already done in that vein.
For that,
Sorry.
for that on the rotation of the credentials, is that something that you guys can automate so that the developer doesn't even know what they are? They have access to that credential through their account, but they don't actually know what it is. When they just execute their code, it pulls in whatever the credential is at that time.
Yeah, this is like the holy grail of password managers, right? Like how do we inform someone that they have a compromise, which is what we have today with Watchtower, and then make it as easy as possible for them to do that reset, whether it's a password or an API key or whatever. So the short answer is we have tools that help, but they're not the full holy grail. Like I just click a button and it's rotated and I can just trust that that worked. This is something that we firmly believe AI can help us solve with obviously a lot of human in the loop as well. So it's something that we're working on. We have nothing to announce at this time related to that, but I want you to know that we're very passionate inside the company of solving this problem. It's probably one of the hardest problems to solve in the password management industry. And when we solve it, which we will, we are going to solve it in a way that continues to preserve our privacy model and does it with a reliability that people can actually use it. There are folks out there that say that they solve this well today. When you actually try to use it, you find that, well, it doesn't always work. You kind of have to do it manually yourself anyway. We're not going to be doing it that way. We're going to be doing it right.
With open, oh, sorry. So will you be doing anything so just sticking with developers and the developer community, with open standards? Anything along those lines?
Absolutely. So one thing that many people don't know about 1Password is we are on the FIDO board for passkeys, and we've actually authored a few standards recently. The most recent is called the credential exchange format for passkeys. So this is the format that allows two password managers or two credential managers to talk to each other to be able to transfer securely credentials between them. Prior to this format existing, what most people would do is they would actually export all their passwords in a plain text CSV file.
Yeah.
Horrifying as that is, they'd be all over the computer and they would send it over to their friend, they would import it, and then they never delete the CSV file. Like, what a nightmare. So some of the password managers did come together and create like proprietary ways of going, but we're like, this needs to be a standard. And it especially needs to be a standard because of passkeys, because those don't really go into a CSV very well. They're clearly not suited for that. So not only did we authored that standard, and we were able to rally all of the passkey authenticators to adopt that standard, and everybody's in the precipice already has started to release their implementations of it. So we're on the FIDO board, and we have a lot of folks that hang out with the W3C folks, that consortium, and we're trying to expand our reach, and we definitely think standards are the way of getting this done, particularly when it comes to web standards around how these authentication flows work.
A couple of things that MC
Mhm.
were involved there as well, and OIDF, that's another standards body that's looking
Yeah.
at these things.
Yeah.
So
Great.
lots to Jason's point.
Very cool.
Yeah, we learned a lot. We're new to it. We've
Mhm.
been doing it only for a handful of years, and to have an opportunity to influence these boards, because
Right.
famously when passkeys were first created, they were kind of like a little bit stringent on the rules of the road of what they could and couldn't do. And one of the rules was they have to be device bound. Well, we didn't like that because we want people to be able to have a passkey, and then when they use their phone, those passkeys are there and they can log in. So, kind of moving the Overton window toward a world where we could accept syncing these passkeys across devices is one that we help champion. And also differences of how user verification happens as well. As a result, passkeys are a lot easier to use, not just in 1Password, but also using Apple and other types of operating system because of some of those things that we're able to kind of help move the needle on.
I like that you use Overton window in that because I was pretty outraged when it moved off device bound. So that's appropriate use there. Question for you that I have is as we look into the DevSecOps world and the injection of credentials, those are some well-funded, well-entrenched competitors, right? People who are doing vaults and are injecting secrets. How would you explain how far you want to get into that market, right? Where does 1Password belong, and where do you think you're going to be like, I'll leave that to the enterprise vaults?
So our perspective on this has always started where we always start with every problem, is how do we make this easier for the end user, in this case, the developer itself. And so all of our efforts on the developer side have been around how do, like our SSH agent, for example. that was built from the perspective of it's really hard locally to manage an SSH agent if you're not used to it, and then importing those keys and taking care of them the right way. This is just a really hard problem to solve. Well, that sounds so much like the password problem that we solved all the way back in the early 2000s. So let's do that. Another good example that we will be announcing in the future is related to sourcing environment variables, right? Like, it is such a pain. Like, you have these environment variables. How do we source them in without just creating .env files all over our local code base, and they're just sort of sitting there waiting to be compromised? Well, the answer is put them in 1Password, and we will build the connective tissue to make it simple so that when you open your terminal and you're in the right folder, they're just sourced immediately. In addition to that, we have done a ton of work adding CLI tools to the password manager. So if you have the password manager installed, we have something called the OP command, which is, I think, an amazing two-letter binary to have on any computer, OP. But you have OP, and then what you're able to do is you can actually script your ability to actually reach out to 1Password programmatically to grab credentials. And not only can you do that, reach out programmatically, but every time that does it, you have to prove user verification. So if I want to build like a deployment script that needs secrets that are sourced from 1Password, every time I deploy, I have to authenticate to unlock the vault, and all of that gets audited and rolled up to a central authority. So these are the ways that we really see us stepping into the space versus trying to make this big effort and going straight for the buyers who are trying to buy these full-fledged solutions. We want to start grassroots. We want to solve the problem for the single developer that's just starting their company, and then have it be brought in and then be proliferated throughout the org until finally somebody says, you know, this is working very well. How do we get an enterprise license? It's how we built our B2B business, and we're going to take that exact same approach as we approach developers. And we also think helping the folks that are experimenting with AI do it safely will also be our entree into that space as well.
Yeah, just to quickly add to what Jason said, that slide that talked about sort of how agentic AI is kind of like a user as well as an application, sort of also provides that entry point in the sense that, you know, all these secret management that was sort of like siloed in application teams before, in enterprise vaults and things like that. Well, agentic AI needs access to those secrets as well, right? But also needs access to workforce secrets. And so how does that situation, or how does that kind of a system work? That's something that we're looking to solve as well. So, yep.
I hope I answered your question well. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So what happens if any issues with losing a master key and retrieval of that, and
Yeah, so we've
yeah, can your information be forever encrypted and you can't actually get it back?
So we've thought very carefully about recovery, particularly for the enterprise use case. Yes, there's still possible paths for you to be locked out, but on the consumer side, we're there right away to give you that 1Password recovery kit, give you options so that you can't lose it. And then this is where my knowledge is, I'm still kind of getting used to it. So maybe if Leia knows a little bit more, but we have a really, really cool way of using sort of this consensus model to get you back your access if you lose it for an enterprise account as well. So I'm going to do a terrible job of enumerating the specifics of that recovery process because I've never actually had to go through it. But I know that we had a big team think about it for years. And what we have today is, I think, pretty state of the art. We never want people to obviously lose access to their stuff. But at the same time, we don't want to compromise our zero knowledge architecture either.
Right.
So we're very careful about, we have to spend 3 years to solve that problem. We're going to spend 3 years to solve that problem, not compromise on the values that made 1Password what it is today, which is that double encryption standard.
Yeah, so just
Leia, why don't you...
I'll elaborate a little bit on that. I can't go into too much detail because there's a lot that's still in development. But essentially, to Jason's point, we want to, we're looking to make that process as automated as possible without compromising the integrity of our security model. It's why it has taken us so long to solve the problem, because it wasn't something that was, easy to do, and we were looking for a path forward. We have a path forward now, so that's in development.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Well, I'll ask one then, since nobody else has one. You're very clearly a human-oriented company, human-oriented perspective, which I love. And you're now moving into machines and computer rather than humans. In the identity world, there's sort of this now bifurcation of non-human versus human identities. And you didn't touch on that, which I think is good, but I am interested sort of your perspective on that bifurcation and what it means for 1Password.
You want to take this, or I'm happy to?
I can.
Why don't you step up here so you can?
Oh, I already have a mic.
Why don't you
Alright,
step
there
up
you
here
go.
so people can?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
do it on
sure.
camera?
Yeah, for sure. Although R2D2 is following me, I think.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, no. So it's a really important problem to solve, and actually we are thinking about it. So for example, when an agentic AI needs credentials, just as an example of this, right? How do we actually know that that's a legitimate agentic AI? How do we know that it's got the right entitlements? How do we know who it ties back to, and all the rest of that? And so even for like credentials, it's an important aspect to be able to solve the identity problem. And so it's something that we're actually actively at work on. Sort of how do you model these things? How do you model the entitlements? How do you model that authentication process and all the rest of it? But so stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, like everything, though, we're going to have a very human-centric model when it comes to reasoning about AI. I think we think these things are in service of humanity, right? So how do we create that linkage? The problem that we have today is we don't want to be in a world where we have these AI agents sort of usurping human identities. We can't tell if Jason did it or his bot did it. So that's like really the first big problem to solve. If we could solve that problem, we well on our way of enumerating all the other problems that really need to be solved in that space. But that's like the first one that really needs to be solved right away, because I'm sure there are AI bots working on other people's behalf right now, and they just show up as someone's name in an audit log, and then that person has some deniability of like, oh, I didn't actually do that. It was just sort of flawed doing it. Well, no, we have to figure out that story there, and it will be figured out, and we want to be a part of that story, a part of the solution. But it's early days. It's still very early days.
There's actually an example of this in the internet, like for browser use style agentic AI. Cloudflare and BrowserBase, a company, actually recently announced a partnership on how to identify a browser use style agentic AI versus like a person, right? Otherwise, it's just detected as a bot, and it's it could be like a denial of service attack or something like that, right? And so there's sort of like approaches all over the place, but yeah, we definitely need to get into that space where it's clear, right? Okay, this is an agentic AI. This is how it's identified. This is whose agentic AI it's on behalf of, and so on and so on.